The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max, Monday Night Raw, review.
Welcome, everybody, to the Wrestling to the Max Raw review for January 30th, 2017. And we are brought to you by W2Mnet.com. That's right. You can go find all your written reviews and lots of other great wrestling content on W2Mnet.com. Plus, go check out W2M Network on whatever device you like to listen to podcasts on. That's right. You go there, subscribe now if you haven't already, and you can get all our other great reviews that we do during the week for wrestling, like SmackDown Live, 205 Live, and NXT. But now it is time to talk some Monday Night Raw.
Oh, alrighty. So, they're still in San Antonio, right, for this Raw? Or?
No, they're in
Laredo.
Laredo,
Oh, Lord.
Texas. Yep.
That's why the crowd was whatever.
Even Mick Foley had to look down and read that. Mick Foley's like looking down, reading it, make sure he had it right too. So trust me.
Nobody wants to remember freaking that you're in Laredo. Oh, I just realized we don't have my notes are not in here right now. So, give me a little bit to figure this out here. Well, I know we started out with this Kevin Owens promo, obviously talking about, hey, I beat Roman Reigns. Nobody thought I was gonna win. He's out there with Jericho, and he's talking up the match that he had with Roman and that he won, and then Braun Strowman comes out because Braun Strowman is sort of the unsung hero of why Kevin Owens is the champion right now. And yeah, he basically challenges him to he says, hey, I want my WWE title match that you promised me. And Kevin Owens acts like he never said it, and then there's Braun's a smart man. He makes sure that he has proof for, the match that he's telling him all about. And then eventually it leads to Mick Foley coming out to sit there and go, hey, guess what? You are going to have this match, whether you like it or not. Kevin Owens, I thought, made a good point about hello, I just went through a freaking war last night and you just don't care? That's great, man. Thank you for not caring about me at all. And yeah, so they went with that. And that is your opening segment. Of course, the match was really, I think we kind of knew as soon as they made it, guess what's going to happen? Roman Reigns is going to interfere because there's no way they're going to just have this big match on Raw, right? Well, that's exactly what happened. Roman comes in and Braun wins by DQ. Because he wants him some Braun, and then he gives Kevin Owens a spear as well. And yeah, so that's your, not the main storyline of the show, because obviously the main storyline was what they had hyped up at the Royal Rumble, the Seth Rollins confrontation. But this is one of your storylines of the show. How'd you feel about how they handled Braun and this whole? All I got from this is everybody saying that Braun sounds a lot like Hulk Hogan.
A Southern Hulk Hogan, like a brother. I don't know.
More menacing Hulk
I
Hogan.
guess. I guess you could kind of see, I could see the similarities, but I still get that twang I hear, and I think that kind of takes me out of the Hulk Hogan comparison. But yeah, I mean, I think this is a interesting situation because of the fact that you did have Mick Foley not really worrying about the fact that you did have Kevin Owens just come out of a Royal Rumble. Now I get it, storyline wise, why you would do this and everything, but it's just kind of funny to me that he kind of put that aside. But barring all that, this is fun. You get a lot of exciting things like Braun Strowman just eliminating the Jericho factor immediately by putting him through the announce table. So that's done and taken care of. I like that they did that. They didn't let Jericho come down and it looks silly and then get put through the table later. No, he did it immediately. You had the whole match, and then of course Roman Reigns. But that all sets up what we know was going to happen anyway, like you said, Sean. So this was fine. You got what you needed to get. Kevin Owens, of course, does at a point get to look good, but for the most part, Braun Strowman's just a beast and he's a monster. The one thing I'll say is this was there to build up Roman Reigns all the way. I mean, Roman Reigns basically leaving not only Kevin Owens laying there, but he also had Braun Strowman, the biggest menacing guy, especially when you just came out of the Royal Rumble, basically leaning against the barricade. So this wasn't the end of Raw when this happened, but man, they just had to have that music playing. They had to have it as Roman Reigns walks out looking like he, was the Terminator.
Yeah, they also did have Sami Zayn and Chris Jericho as well in the middle of this, which was both the longest and probably the best match on the show, which when I say best match, we're just talking about a good match here. This was not a night for wrestling. If you're looking for Raw, the wrestling show, this was not it on this evening. This was Raw, the storyline and talk show. So just wanted to point that out for those of you that may be listening and didn't watch yet or whatever. But Paul, I mean, what do you think about this?
Sounds business as usual to me. Braun continues to look strong. You have the callback now with Roman Reigns that went down on the night before. Moving swimmingly along to wherever we're going to get to, and sounds fine to me.
What do you think about the fact that they did have, Sami Zayn immediately, come in there and beat Chris Jericho? I mean, this is right after this big Royal Rumble match. It looks like that they're kind of setting us up for Sami Zayn, I guess, possibly to take that U.S. title.
I would assume he would challenge at Fastlane, but I mean, I don't know if that's going to play into whatever they're going to do at WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have a challenger for Jericho at Fastlane. And then, I mean, you still have that Kevin Owens connection there with Sami Zayn and Owens and Jericho and all that. So you get to play into that too, which I think is good. I like that idea of it's still involving them, and that's good. And hey, Sami Zayn needs these moments, man. You never know. He could win, and you just have it be Jericho and Owens with no title. They don't need a title for that feud. That feud's been going on so long. You don't need that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was thrilled.
The U.S. title needs it more than the feud does.
Yeah, but is it going to be one of those where it's really going to be about the title, or is it going to be about them? That's the thing. If, the title's not a centerpiece of that feud, then why does it matter?
It's something on the line, and it gives it at least a better building on the top show, so it has a better position.
You're right. But, I mean, if Sami Zayn's going to win, he definitely would be one of those guys where I could see him the opposite way, where Stephanie does this. Stephanie doesn't like Sami Zayn. I could definitely see Stephanie doing this thing where, hey, Sami Zayn, guess what? You're going to defend your title every week or whatever, or just be a total, what Stephanie normally is every show. And, every week, we're going to make you defend it, where she, every week, has a new opponent for him. It's not that she makes it once and it's a done deal. But, they could go different ways here, but I think, having that underdog guy be the champion going into Mania or whatever wouldn't be bad. You could have a multiple person match. I don't know what they'd wind up doing, but,
Yeah, I mean, if they wanted to do the multi-man ladder match again for the secondary title, then that's a way to do it. I don't have a problem with Sami Zayn winning anything. I was just if you want to try to put some more shine back on that U.S. title, I think featuring it in the feud between Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho would work out just fine.
certainly, as we get on with this show and have one of the other things that they'd set up beforehand is a multi-person tag, or not, a 6-person tag, mixed tag with Bayley and Sheamus and Cesaro against Gallus and Anderson and Charlotte. They had a little backstage exchange where pretty much, the heels were heels and called them nerds and made fun of them and whatever, and they had their titles and the faces didn't. Then you had your mixed tag match, and well, this was okay. It was mainly there so that Bayley could get the win on Charlotte. I guess that's going to continue into Fastlane. And yeah, there's that. You also have Bayley telling Sasha Banks that, hey, look, you're injured, don't wrestle right now. And she goes out there to have her match against Nia Jax anyway, and Nia Jax whoops her some more until the point to where Bayley has to come and make the save. So there you got your women's stuff for Raw.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder about the state of affairs with Bayley and Sasha, only because how much longer are they going to keep Nia Jax and her going back and forth with Sasha? I don't know. It makes me question, but it also kind of adds some intrigue there with let's be honest, Sasha being a little bit heelish here, kind of being the hey, I'm not like you, who is okay with losing. That's kind of a messed up thing to say, and it makes me wonder if they are kind of leaning towards, maybe Bayley using this as a way to get to her friend, but then Sasha is just not willing to hear it and, comes on the hateful side, and we get a different Sasha than we've seen, which would not be a bad idea, because Sasha we've seen so far is, okay, but they're really not using her very strongly at the moment.
Well, it's more stacking the deck against Bayley. Paul, you get 3 heels and the 1 face Bayley in the match. I mean,
yeah, basically.
I mean, I don't know if they can even afford to turn Sasha heel fully, but they can do sort of what they've been doing with Cena, right? Where she has these little heelish moments that make her seem like she might be going that way, or just makes her a little bit more different, that's completely okay. But it seems all they're trying to do right now is get the heat on Nia, continue to build the aura and the mystique around her that she's this unstoppable monster. That way, whenever you run into, if they do decide to do the multi-woman match for the championship at WrestleMania, then you have this big, unstoppable person in there along with the underdog and Charlotte, the unbeatable champion, and Sasha, who's just trying to prove that she can still hang by any means necessary. And I think that's a fine way to go.
yeah, I got no problem with that. They're doing a good job of it, and, Gallus and Anderson still, it's cool that they have titles right now. That's all I got out of that.
That's the most important thing, that they just get to keep those titles.
No, I mean, that's all I care about. I don't care about the fact, I mean, Cesaro and Sheamus, it is what it is, so.
Are you bummed that they kind of are trying to work them out again? I'm like, come on, I just want them to fight. I'm kind of done with that whole tag team.
We still got a lot of time.
Fight. They fought like forever before.
I know. Well, the tag team was just kind of boring to me. I'm sorry. Just kind of bored with it now.
I'd love to see them let him go at WrestleMania. I think those two deserve it. They can have such a great match together. We've seen so many of them. I'm willing to give them more time to go out there and just Show us what they can do.
Well, that's true. I mean, you know that they're going to deliver on something great. Just, man. I mean, it has been long enough, I guess. Just, they fought a lot.
Yeah.
That's.
When you get quality, I ain't gonna bitch.
Oh, no, it's, I wouldn't call it bitching. I would just say that it's a valid point of, I wonder if that's why they've really tried to make this to where they're not fighting all the time, where they actually kind of figured it out, because, that also got to the point where it was getting a little overboard too, I think, with the fans and whatever, so they embrace them a bit more once they're actually working together, but we'll see what they decide to do here with them, and, it's not like they just have this great lineup of people to challenge Gallus and Anderson, because, after Cesaro and Sheamus, what do you got? New Day again, and who else?
It's Enzo and Cass. They still haven't pulled the trigger on that.
That's true. I find, I think it's funny that we've been saying, oh, Enzo's not going to wrestle anymore. They just keep having Enzo wrestle even more. No. So it's like somebody listened and said, well, you know what? Screw you guys. Enzo's wrestling. So, which I don't have a problem with. I think he works fine in that environment. Just don't do a singles match with Enzo.
Yeah.
I'm good with
We don't need that anymore.
don't need that. So you have your cruiserweight stuff for the evening, which Tony Nese beats Mustafa Ali. And then they have this moment here because, we know that Tony Nese doesn't really like talking. And, Aries is a bit of a jerk, right? I mean, that's obviously a known thing. Austin Aries he could be a dick. So he just goes in there, tries to be a journalist, and it's like, hey, look, I know you don't have any charisma and that you don't want to talk. You're about the premier athlete, all that. And he just basically says, hey, look, I don't need to talk. I'm the premier athlete. And Austin Aries is like, well, the critics say you're going to learn nothing about Tony Nese. Like, yeah, we just didn't learn anything about the guy. It's fine. Do you feel like you learned something?
Well, I mean, really, just like you said, the fact that Austin Aries is a jerk sometimes. But I mean, at the end of the day, I look at this and I say to myself, it's good that they're actually giving these guys a little bit more of trying to give them more of a speaking role on Raw, because sometimes we just see the cruiserweights come in, do their thing, and get out. It's nice to see them get that opportunity to get more charisma, even if they don't have it. At least they're out there trying to say something. And Austin Aries against anyone is always a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, it gets you questioning on how soon Austin Aries is going to be back in that ring. I'm ready.
I'm ready for that too. I want to see him wrestle and go out and. I mean, I don't know how many. I would figure that his character would be sort of the same thing too. If he'd think he was better than the cruiserweights or whatever, like Neville. So it's gonna be interesting how they play this with Aries once he starts wrestling. Mm-hmm. Speaking of the King of the Cruiserweights, you get Neville here, getting his coronation, his celebration. For winning the Cruiserweight Championship at the Royal Rumble. And, he proved all the peasants wrong. Basically, Rich Swann doesn't waste much time in coming out here. Basically tells Neville, dude, what's your deal with these fans, man? What's your deal with the division? I don't get it. Nobody's against you here. And Neville's just like, well, I don't care about your handshake. I don't care about anything. You need to bow to me as the King of Cruiserweights. And, well, then Neville just attacks him and everything. And, yeah, I mean, the feud is continuing.
Well, I mean, at this point, I mean, I think that we got a lot of, Rich Swann and Neville, and we'll just, hopefully move on to those other people like, we've talked about on when we were kind of getting into the Royal Rumble. I was kind of thinking to myself, okay, so you have this next group of guys. Rick Swann kind of says he's not coming out there to throw, fist in cuffs. He's just coming out there to talk to Neville. So I appreciate everything he's saying, but at the same point, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm sure he's going to get his rematch when he gets his rematch. That's fine, but I'm excited about seeing even the next group of guys more than I am just seeing a rematch of these two, which is fine. It's not a problem. It's just that I think what we saw at tonight kind of proves that it's going to be a short thing, and then after that we'll move on. It's not like this is a long tenure feud or anything. I think
it certainly has the potential to go long. I think Neville winning the championship naturally leaves it open for a rematch. These two guys, I think, did a good job as far as telling the story in the ring. While the match may not have been as great as we wanted it to be at the Rumble, the story's there. I think they have a lot to tell, and I'm willing to let them go for however long. And it really makes me wonder what they have planned at WrestleMania for the Cruiserweights. They're going to do that Cruiserweight Open thing again like they've done in the past to try to get a lot of them on the show? Are they going to build up a feud and actually let them go at it one-on-one? I just, it's got you wondering how they're going to work this all out.
Yeah, it is interesting what they're going to do with these guys, because I want to see this continue, because they need this for the Cruiserweights. They need to establish this division. They need to have big feuds for the division, not just have guys wrestling. And Neville's done a great job of really, making people kind of pay attention to this. So, and I mean Rich Swann as well. So I hope that they do get to continue this. And they probably are going to have some kind of multi-person thing, but kind of can't get mad about that.
Yeah, I mean, how long can you really though push the Rich Swann thing, but past the rematch? I mean, that's my thing is. You got Neville winning the title from Rich Swann. He gets his rematch. After that, I mean, you have to start building, especially if you are doing that multi-person thing at WrestleMania, you're going to start building towards that. And I think Rich Swann will probably be, a part of that, of course, but I'm just saying I see this Rich Swann thing ending quicker than lasting all the way, to WrestleMania or, anything like that.
I mean, I certainly think you can make it last till WrestleMania. It's just, they have to escalate it now, right? You have the beginnings done. If they do choose to keep it going to WrestleMania, obviously they can cut it short if they choose. But I mean, there's plenty there to go off of Rich Swann trying to find ways to get around everything that Neville taught him, because that's a big crux of the story. Is that Swann used to be Neville's protege, and that's the master still has a few tricks, and now we got to get around all that. So I mean, there's a lot of ways to go here. I certainly think they can make it last.
You could make it last. Here's my thing. That's fine. You could push it. My issue is it's got to be good, and you can't just make little bitty things cause this feud to last. You can't cause Neville interfering in something else that Rich Swann does, or Rich Swann just being in like the little bug in every match that Neville has, always at ringside, things like that. That's not enough. You've got to have something vicious. You've got to have something that's really passionate. And I don't know. If they do it, congrats to them. I just have my big fears that they're not going to put that much into them. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope I am.
Hey, I don't want to knock it yet until we get to that point, so I'm going to leave it at there. And we keep things going with, I should have done this with the tag team stuff, but you have a total filler Enzo and Cass against Rusev and Jinder tag match, which went 10 minutes because they had to kill time before the last segment. I just don't really care.
You're telling me this is almost painful now. I mean, I get it. I mean, Enzo and Cass are a blast.
I wish there was still football on. I would have switched to that at this point.
Yeah. And that's a problem. problem. It's a serious problem. And, I'm sitting here, a little bit nervous about the cruiserweights, and I shouldn't really be so nervous about, that situation. I should be more nervous about this because, my God, how long are they going to stretch this? This is so done. But they've got to put it in. They got to keep it going for whatever reason. I am excited for when finally Enzo and Kaz get in the title picture for the tag team belts because I am just kind of ready for them to move on past Rusev and Jinder. Those two guys are great and all, Jinder and Rusev. They do a good job of what they do, right? Being the heels. There's no knock on them. It's just that they've stretched this out way past its tolerable limit for me. I just hope that they get this done sooner than later. I just want it done.
Yeah. I mean, I think you said it all. It's boring. Move on.
So, yeah, there you go, Sean. So I guess that's all we have to say about that, right?
Thank you.
Kind of like Forrest Gump.
Glad we didn't sit here and talk about that for 10 minutes, too. So, your main storyline, which was what was promoted from the Royal Rumble, was the confrontation between Seth Rollins and Stephanie McMahon, Commissioner of Raw. And so, Seth Rollins comes out. Here comes Stephanie as well. And, Stephanie talks about, that Triple H is not here. And, she knows that the fans are going to be disappointed. And Rollins is like, well, I'm sure like you disappoint your husband every night in the bedroom. Well, I hate to break it to you, Seth Rollins, but if they have kids, that many, she's got to be doing something right. I don't know. But,
She's rich.
I know, but I mean, geez. I mean, you aren't, hate screwing her at that point. You got, 2 or 3 kids? I mean, geez.
You're just doing a pile of money.
Whatever works at that point.
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
That was not what we're trying to get to here, Gary. See, Gary has to make it about a sexual thing. It's okay.
We'll save it till after Gary After Dark. And we'll move on
I swear, you keep teasing this show, it's going to happen these times. But anyway, there's your Gary After Dark segment for the show. Basically, Stephanie gets to a point with Rollins where this is not the first time it's being mentioned on this whole thing with Rollins. Makes fun of him for getting injured. Says that he's a delusional loser, that he gave up all the things that, they gave him. And, then Rollins was like, look, Triple H is a coward for you coming out here. He's scared because he's a threat to his, I'm a threat to him. I'm better than him, in more ways than one. I know how you look at me, Stephanie. And, even saying it's a threat to taking Stephanie away. And he even says that, what are you going to do, Stephanie? I already went to NXT. What if I go to WWE headquarters? What if I go to your house with your kids? Okay. I don't know about you guys, but the next, I don't want to cheer for a guy that threatens that he's going to go do something to my kids. But,
Yeah. I understand the purpose of this because he's passionate, he's angry, but I totally agree with you. And in fact, I started to root for Stephanie to slap the crap out of him because, you could threaten my, spouse, you can threaten all this other stuff. I'm not going to like it, of course, but kids are a different thing. And I was a little bit pushing it, but hey, then again, it gets the point across.
This is the same company
it gets the emotion.
This is the same company that thinks it's okay, to make fun of somebody's wife all the time, and we're supposed to cheer the guy. So what do we know?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, exactly. So they have their little points that they like to put in there, even if you're kind of like, that's a little pushing it. But yeah, I get it. This whole segment was okay. I think that they did fine on what they were trying to accomplish. I think Stephanie had some good comebacks. Telling
I'm glad
Seth, what, my husband's on his mind.
Cutting his balls off thing.
Well, Yeah, she lost her scissors. I guess she left her scissors in the back. And maybe next time, guys. But she really didn't get flabbergasted here. But Seth Rollins pushed her buttons enough to where she admitted that her husband was coming and all that. So it just kind of sets up that. That's what we know is now you're supposed to be excited about the third hour when Triple H comes out. That's good. I mean, honestly, that's a good way to get people to stick around. So I don't really have any qualms about it, but yeah, the Seth Rollins went a little far.
I mean, it makes sense though, right? He's at that point with both of these people who have sort of been the entire reason why he's had this fall from grace and all the other stuff that's happened to him. I'm not saying it's okay, but at least it makes sense. It's not like Roman Reigns is just attacking Rusev's wife to be an ass. You know what I mean? There's a bit better reasoning here, is all I'm getting at.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're
not wrong.
I'm saying I don't have a problem with the whole him wanting to I'm going to even follow you to your house and all that stuff, but his whole point is that he just wants Triple H really bad.
Right.
He doesn't care what he has to do to get it. And that's why this works in the following segment, because he is so driven to get to Triple H that he kind of misses what's in front of him. Right? He kind of misses the whole point that Triple H basically gets to take advantage of the fact that he wants him so bad that he'll just do whatever it takes. So Triple H is like, well, I'm going to make you work for it because, hell, why not? But the ending segment, which it's like a whole 15-minute segment of Triple H doing his big promo that he's back as Triple H and still sort of the creator as well. And he runs down all of Rollins' accomplishments. Then he constantly brings up the whole, well, Seth Rollins did all this by my side. I'm the one that did this and did that and whatever. And, basically he talks about, hey, you got hurt and you lost everything. You gave up everything. You turned your back on us. And then you went into my place where I try to create the next Seth freaking Rollins. 'Cause we had to say Seth freaking Rollins like 20 times. We're trying to get that over. And basically he just keeps on going. He takes the suit off. He does all the stuff like, oh, here comes Triple H. I'm going to get crazy. And then Seth Rollins comes out. And, well, Seth Rollins, you're going to come meet your destroyer. Well, your destroyer isn't Triple H. It's Samoa Joe. And he just beats the crap out of Seth Rollins and puts him in the damn clutch and chokes him out to end the show. The crowd went nuts. You had a Joe's going to kill you chant in freaking Laredo, Texas. And you know what, Brandon? You can go suck it. Because this was way better than him showing up on the Rumble.
I'm guessing Brandon was not happy about that. But
no, he was bitching in our chat for like 20 minutes about how, oh my God, this guy didn't show up in the Rumble. Oh, well, this is why sometimes not everybody shows up in the Rumble, because this was way better.
Well, like I said, when we did our Rumble show, I talked about the fact that everybody was complaining, no Kurt Angle, no Samoa Joe. They all wanted to open up their Christmas presents on Christmas Eve. Well, guess what? Isn't it nice to open up one on Christmas Day at least one? And this was just such a great surprise. I think, there probably are people out there who kind of saw this coming a mile away. I wasn't really one of them. I was expecting to see maybe a little fisticuffs here between, Triple H and Seth Rollins, but this was even better. Triple H now has his new guy, a guy that he's, going to be, really pumping up, and Samoa Joe already proved on NXT how great of a heel he is. So this is great. It's excellent. It was an excellent surprise for all of us, and I'm really thrilled. I can't wait to see what they're going to do with him. This is going to be exciting.
Paul.
So I don't know. How do you feel, Paul?
Sorry. Samoa Joe, it's great that he's here, right? And him and Seth Rollins are going to have a great match. I think it further feeds into the fact that maybe Triple H is actually done wrestling. So if it's going to be Samoa Joe and Seth Rollins at some point, or if they're just doing that for Fastlane or whatever, I think that's fine. But the hubbub is that they have big plans for Joe and that they want to do something big with him. So we'll just have to see what that's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting if they wind up having this be WrestleMania, which totally fine with that, or it's just Fastlane or whatever. But man, the way Samoa Joe got to look in this beatdown was tremendous. That's all, I just really loved it. He looked super strong here. Got to end the segment standing tall. I mean, that's how you debut somebody. Terrific stuff from Joe and for making the choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And looking at this and the way this all took place, now I think there's going to be a lot of speculation on what's going to take place next, and if that is true, what Paul just said, Triple H is ever going to get in the ring. Now a lot of people are going to be speculating about WrestleMania, so this is good. This is great a way to really, we already talked about it.
Triple H
We're focusing
is not going to get in the ring, but Seth Rollins or Shane McMahon is. Ugh.
Oh, don't say that. But I mean, I think what's exciting is now we can speculate even more about WrestleMania, which is good for WrestleMania, right? People are, the chatter keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. We'll have to see. I mean, and then this makes SmackDown interesting because, like I just mentioned, we thought maybe he'll come in and be the guy for Shane, and he's the guy for Triple H instead. So, and we still don't know if Finn Balor's gonna show up or not. Is he gonna reprise his thing with Kevin Owens? Or is that going to be with Jericho? Or, is Balor just not going to be involved with WrestleMania at all? So, interesting.
Yeah. Very.
So we might as well get to the rating, I think. That's all for this Raw.
Wow. Yeah, and like you said, Sean, I mean, lots of talking. This even kind of surprises me that we're done with Raw this quickly, but that's because a lot of this was talk. A lot of it really had to do with, kind of leading out of Royal Rumble and leading us to that next stage of, what we're going to be seeing in the future. And that's fine. You got to have some groundwork, and that's what they were probably trying to focus on. This show was fine. The Joe thing at the end and the Seth Rollins and Triple H part of this show was kind of exciting. You were wanting to see this. You're wanting to see something after a long time of kind of building this up. And then the rest of the show kind of falls into place, of course, with Sami Zayn coming in there and beating Jericho and the Kevin Owens stuff and all that. So I'm going to go ahead and say for this show, at times I was kind of like, ugh, I'm going to give it a 6. I don't think that they really failed me because they kind of did what they needed to do in this one. Groundwork. But just, if you were looking for lots of great wrestling and all that stuff, you kind of missed out.
I don't know if you've missed out just yet. I mean, there's clearly a whole bunch of stuff brewing over here on Raw as we gear up for the road to WrestleMania. The Joe debut's great. I think, pretty much everything here is working towards telling the story, and it seems like they're finally taking a page from SmackDown on that front, which I greatly appreciate. The lack of wrestling you learn to deal with, I think, when it comes to WWE, especially on Raw. So I'll give it a 7.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go to. I don't think for one, they had a lot of great wrestling the night before and the night before that. So I think you can kind of excuse them for letting these guys kind of have a little bit of a time off on this Raw, and you make it more story focused, and you set up those.
You guys are so sweet.
I like storytelling, Gary.
I know
I'm
you do.
If we
I'm just thinking of Harley Race, what he'd be saying now. Harley Race would be like, "Oh my God, you're telling me we should be happy you're giving these guys a night off after 2 days of wrestling." He'd be like, "Let me tell you about the 18-day straight, kid."
Well, we definitely are not in the 18 days straight wrestling world anymore. So
I'm
I
just joking with you.
I just want to make the point that if we didn't just have a pay-per-view and then a NXT takeover where you had great wrestling, they needed to set some of this stuff up. I mean, yeah, they could have waited a little bit because, their pay-per-view's not till March, but hell, give them credit for setting something up early. Normally we're complaining about, they waste the first 2 weeks of the build because they know that they have 4 weeks left or whatever the hell the time is. They went right after it. They viewed Joe. They did the stuff with Braun and Roman some more. I mean, look like you're teasing a little bit more with Jericho because he didn't really want to get involved in Kevin Owens' match. I mean,
I don't disagree with any of that. I don't disagree with anything you just said at all. I'm giving him credit. I gave him a 6. I mean, that's fair. That's really. I mean, if I would have given it a 4, then
that's complaining. It's fine. I'm saying I do agree with you. For it to be higher, you got to have some great matches you're talking about on Raw or whatever. I'm not complaining about the rating. I'm just saying that you were saying we're being too nice about them not
credit.
Them not wrestling, and I'm okay with it when the story stuff makes sense. When you have a bunch of filler crap and no good matches and nothing was really accomplished on Raw, that's when I complain about the wrestling, because you gotta have something that's good. But honestly, a lot of times when I'm watching Raw, I kind of tune out for the wrestling.
Yeah.
Just being quite honest, I pay attention when they're doing the segments or the talking or whatever, because they have a lot of wrestling matches, especially when they've had a bunch of this thing's been going on for a long time, and like the Rusev and Enzo and whatever. It's like, oh god, okay, let me find something else to do for 10 minutes. How many times can you watch that?
Yeah, you're right. It's that 3 hours. That's what does it in. That's why SmackDown is such a great show, because you don't have to worry about filling that extra time. You get to just cut to the chase of what you want to do, what segments you want to get in, and as much good wrestling as you want to get involved, you can do that. Whereas you saw it tonight with that Enzo thing, and of course a few other things, honestly, like them having to walk Sasha Banks to the back. I mean, I was thinking to myself, there's no commentary here. There's nothing. It's just kind of them walking her to the back and then just moving around. Like, good Lord, you could have, with 3 seconds, Michael Cole say something. So, oh, look, there she goes. She's going to the trainer's room. They kind of drug that on. I'm like, good God, guys.
Well, they wanted to throw the beating of Nia giving her.
But they took their time, and they needed to take their time because they need to fill 3 hours, if you were on SmackDown, you would have had to cut that short, and so that's my point. There's nothing wrong. I was getting a little way out there for this, but I just think that you guys, you gave him a lot of credit, and maybe a little bit more credit than I did, and that's great. I mean, that's fine. Overall, it wasn't a bad show. It just wasn't overly super entertaining. Like you said, Sean, you kind of wish Monday Night Football was still on. That's kind of a problem, I would have to say. So.
Yeah, I mean, for that segment, yes, I did.
Yeah. So, well, there you go, guys. I mean, that's Royal. The post Royal Rumble Raw, and sometimes this is what you get following a big pay-per-view, and that's fine. No complaints. It's just build up for the next thing. But yeah, everybody, if you want to come check out the SmackDown Live review, you need to go do that. Of course, the way you can go do that is go to W2Mnet.com. You'll find that podcast there tomorrow. And of course, all the other great shows this week will be there as well. Also, if you like to go find us on whatever podcasting device you have, make sure you go subscribe to the W2M Network. You'll get all the other great shows. And of course, plus our normal episode of Wrestling to the Max every week. We'll have episode 232 this week. Part 1 will be tonight, and part 2 will be on Thursday night. So please come check us out. Until the next time we do one of these, if you're not living life to the max.
Not living life at all.
You know it.
Please.
Later.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.